Hi, Lovebugs. Welcome to another episode of Girls Night. I am your host, Carley Doxtator, and I have had a really fun week this week. I actually got my first spray tan ever in my whole life, which was actually a really good experience. But if you're watching on YouTube, you will notice that I am a bit more glowy than normal, much more glowy than normal, and that is because of the spray tan. So if anybody in the Denver area is looking for a place to get a spray tan, I would highly recommend this place. The girl was awesome. I went to Tan Co. Sunless. You can just Google them. They have a TikTok. She was great. She was lovely. Guided me right through it. So I felt really comfortable, even though it was my first time going through. My roommate actually got a spray tan at the same time. We got spray tans together, well, separately, but together because my roommate is going to a wedding in a little bit. And so she wanted to be tan for it, but wanted to test it out beforehand because, in her words, she has never been tan before in her whole life. So she was a little bit nervous, as I would be too, especially if it's for a wedding. You don't want to try something like that out for a wedding and pictures that are going to be forever, right? Because with a spray tan, there's always that fear that you're going to turn out orange, like early 2000s Snooki. But that did not happen. So this person did a really good job. If you are watching on YouTube, I'm kind of more of the medium tone that she has. So my roommate did the lightest tone, I did medium. So there's the ability to go even darker, but she was fab. So if anybody is looking for a place, I highly recommend to go there. I'll put the link for her website in the show notes as well so that you don't have to go looking for it. I also went to my very first Rockies game of the season last night with my brother and my sister and another one of our friends. So that was really, really fun. And the Rockies actually won the game, which is crazy because if you know anything about baseball, you know that the Rockies are not good. They are just not good at baseball. Apparently, but from what I've been told, they actually are about to set the record for having the worst losing streak in the history of baseball ever. That tells you the skill set of the Rockies. Like, being from Denver, tickets are like $8 a pop, and really people go for like something fun to do, or if they are going, lots of times the game people are going for like the away team because there's a lot of people from other states that live in Colorado now. So usually a big fan base for those away teams, especially because the tickets are so cheap. But the games are always really fun, in my opinion, to go to regardless. So it was really fun to go to that game last night, especially being with my brother and my sister, who are two of my best friends, and our other friend, which was really fun. So that was my weekend so far. It's been really great, and I hope y'all have had an amazing week as well. Getting into the episode, this week we are going to be talking all about our intuition. And I think this is something that is kind of overlooked sometimes in our society today, but also super important for the way that we make decisions, even if we've shut it down a little bit. So, we're going to be talking through what intuition exactly is, why it's so important, and a few tips for how to help yourself tune back into your intuition if you've lost it a little bit. So, it's going to be a good episode. I'm on my own today, no guests with me. So, it's just you and I, baby. Let's get into it. Hi, everyone. Life can get a little crazy, so let's talk about it. If you're ready to dive deeper, talk about what really matters, and feel a little more empowered, then you're in the right place. I'm your host, Carley Doxtator. I'm a life coach, baker, dog mom of two, and you're always there for you, gal pal. And I'm so excited to have you join me. So grab your fuzzy socks, put on your comfy pants, and let's have girls' night. So first and foremost, our intuition, it's really our ability to understand or know something instinctively without really needing to think about it or to use our conscious reasoning. So our intuition is that gut feeling, it's that sudden insight, it's those snap decisions. And really what our intuition is, it's arising from all of our unconscious processes and processing all of that unconscious information that's coming in. It's coming from our past experiences, and it plays a really big role in the way that we make decisions. And for some reason, and I don't know why this is, but for some reason, our intuition has started to become like a woo-woo concept to some people, but our intuition is not a woo-woo concept. Like, human beings are not the only ones with intuition. Animals have intuition too. It's just that they don't question it, they listen to it instinctively. And for humans, I feel like there's a lot of these other factors that for some reason have washed it down. People have started to dismiss their intuition in exchange for logical thinking, which I personally think is kind of crazy because our intuition is there to really help protect us as we're like living through life. Intuition is a legitimate decision making tool, especially when we are tuned into our bodies, tuned into our intuition. When we really understand what our intuition feels like in our bodies, when we understand what a yes feels like, when we understand what a no feels like, when we understand when we feel uneasy, when we understand when we feel safe, like that is a very, very, very powerful tool in your tool belt. And for context, the reason that our intuition is such a powerful decision-making tool is because our subconscious brains control 95% of our reality, of our day-to-day actions, of our day-to-day thoughts. So 95% of our thoughts in a day are subconscious. We have about 60,000 thoughts per day, which sounds like a crazy, insane number of thoughts because consciously we are not having that many thoughts. As I said, 95% of those thoughts are subconscious processes. They're subconscious thoughts and repeating thoughts at that that are kind of going on in the background, kind of like a computer program. So, like your computer, maybe you're watching this on your computer right now. Maybe you're listening to it on your phone, which is basically just like a mini computer. But there's a million little programs, a million different processes happening in the background that you are not consciously aware of when you're on TikTok, when you're listening to a podcast. You are only consciously aware of the podcast, but there's a million other things happening in the background that you are not aware of. And our brains are much the same. 95% of what's going on is happening in our subconscious. 95% of those 60,000 thoughts are happening in our subconscious. We are only conscious of 5% of those thoughts tops. And in addition to that, not just our thoughts, but 95% of our actions are subconscious actions too, because again, our subconscious minds are controlling 95% of our overall reality. So to kind of put that into context for you guys, our brains process roughly like 11 million bits of information every single second. 11 million. That is so much information that is coming into our brains that our brains are processing. But I want to ask you like how many bits of information do you think we are consciously processing out of that 11 million every single second? We are only processing about 40 to 50 bits of information consciously per second. Isn't that wild? So out of that 11 million, only 40 to 50 of those 11 million bits are what we are consciously processing. The rest is being processed by our subconscious brains. That means that your brain and your body is speaking to you about those 10,999,950 other bits of information that you did not consciously process through your intuition. So it is just your job to learn how to listen to your intuition and how to trust it. Hi, Lovebug. I've got a juicy little gift for you. And if you've been feeling off, stuck in your head, or like your vibe just is not vibing lately, then this is for you. I created a free guide called The 3 Secrets to Creating a Magnetic Energy Shift Right Now. And it's exactly what you need to start shifting your energy instantly. These are the exact tools I use with my private coaching clients when they're ready to stop chasing and start attracting. We're talking powerful, we're talking practical, and yes, of course, we are talking a little bit woo, but in the best possible way. In the guide, you will learn how to clear energetic blocks, activate your most irresistible frequency, shift into receiving mode, and there's even a bonus secret on how to use your body language to instantly boost your confidence and presence. So if you're ready to feel like the version of you who turns heads, magnetizes opportunities, and walks through the world like the main character, then this is your sign. Head to the show notes and click the link to download your free copy. It is quick, it is powerful, and it is going to leave you feeling like, damn, I really am that girl. All right, let's get back into the episode. Some of those reasons that we've disconnected from our intuition as a society, as a culture, one, there is that societal pressure not to really listen to our intuition. Again, in exchange for that logical thinking, we're often taught to think on the practical side or to be more realistic. And I feel like just by telling someone to be more realistic, that can lead to you like suppressing those intuitive feelings that might seem unconventional or illogical. And that's kind of the whole purpose, is that our intuition knows things that we may not logically know. But something else that can kind of cause us to disconnect from our intuition is when we're feeling emotionally overwhelmed. So maybe if we're chronically in stressful situations, if we are chronically in a highly emotional state, then that causes us to disconnect from our intuition, because really that's forcing our bodies to stay in that fight or flight, like survival mode. So you're most focused on just becoming safe, and your body will do that in any way possible, even if it's opposite of what your intuition would naturally do. So it's kind of that prolonged emotional or highly stressful state that can get us to disconnect from our intuition as well. But part of this too is there is so much stimulation in our society these days, from our phones, with TikTok, with Instagram, the constant scrolling, with just ads all over the place. Even when you're driving down the street, there's just billboards and ads, and you're listening to the radio with ads, whatever it is. Like there's a complete bombardment of stimuli almost constantly. So that stimuli can really drown out the voice of our intuition, especially if we are like scrolling all day on Instagram. If we're really listening to other people's opinions over ours, we really start to question our own intuitive instincts. In place for somebody else's advice that we're getting. Not to say that advice is always bad. I think advice can be really helpful, but you have to take it from a place of really bringing it back to yourself and making that final decision yourself based on advice, if you did want to get advice in the first place. Another reason that we may have disconnected from our intuition is because of a fear of failure or a fear of judgment. So, if we have in the past had a history of negative experiences over and over and over again in one department, or really just kind of in general, our brains will kind of start to form these patterns and think, like, hey, I'm not good at this decision making. This is something that I can speak to personally, where in relationships, I really started to distrust my own opinion. So I would ask anybody and everybody besides myself what I should do in a situation, what I should say, what text I should send. And that's actually really, really detrimental, especially in the relationship context. One, really detrimental to the relationship, because you are not learning on your own how to handle conflict with that other person, but also just really detrimental because you are going to be put in situations where you cannot always ask another person for help. Like you have to be able to develop that own processing and that own internal dialogue for yourself so that you know how to get yourself out of situations. Because when we're relying, when we get to the point where we are solely relying on other people to make decisions for us, then our lives are going to start to be really chaotic, because even if that person has the best of intentions, which I'm assuming if you're going to that person for advice or for guidance, then you do trust that person and you do trust their opinion. So just given the fact that let's say like everybody has the best of intentions when you're going to them for advice, that person is still outside of you and they're still outside of the situation. So a third party to a situation can never truly understand what the situation is like from the inside. So somebody could give you advice all day, but it still might not be the right advice. And truly, even when someone is giving us advice, that is still based on their own experiences and their own biases. So we have to be really careful about kind of handing over all of our power to somebody else because we have lost trust in ourselves and our own intuition. Another reason, kind of going off of this fear of failure or this fear of judgment too, part of the reason that we can lose connection to our intuition is because of traumatic experience, because traumatic experiences can really disrupt the body's ability to process and interpret intuitive signals. So, and just can kind of like stunt those processes for a little while until you actually go in and start to give them the time and the attention that they need to help rebuild those bridges so that you're able to trust yourself past the trauma. And really, I think one of the biggest reasons that we have lost connection to our intuition kind of as like a society is that we have been so encouraged to over intellectualize everything. And like over intellectualizing just is not good in any situation. Like if we try to over intellectualize our emotions, then that's a form of like bypassing our emotions so that we don't have to feel them. And it's the same with our intuition. Like our intuition is something that lots of times does not make sense to us in that moment. So we try to make it make sense to us and we try to choose a logical decision. But there's so much going on in the background with our intuition that we are not consciously picking up on. And that's why it doesn't make sense to us in that moment. So when we are over intellectualizing something, there is so much of the picture and so much of the story that we're missing out on. And we are trying to make a decision based off of this much information when there's this much information that we could be using based on our intuition. So, those are some of the biggest reasons, in my opinion, that we have lost connection to our intuition. I think the why is important, but I think what matters more is getting ourselves to a place where we can trust our intuition again. One of the biggest things that is challenging for people when they are trying to listen to their intuition more and understand their intuition more is that intuition can very easily be replaced by fear, especially when you're coming from this hypervigilant state that we talked about earlier, where you came from a really stressed state or an overstimulated space or a highly emotional state for a prolonged period of time. When you've been operating out of that place of fear for so long, that's why we can kind of lose touch with what our intuition actually sounds like. So for me, the the easiest way to kind of differentiate between your intuition and your fear is to pay attention to the spiral. So we have all been there with that spiral. We are all very familiar with it. We make a decision and then we start going down that what if trail. What if logistically that doesn't work out? Where is the money going to come from? How am I going to pay for it? What if it doesn't work out like I thought it would? What if this happens? What if that happens? What if I lose out on this other opportunity? What if that person doesn't want to come along with me? All these what ifs start going off in our brain. The second that your brain, your thoughts start to go down that spiral is the very moment you know that your fear is taken over and your intuition has left the building. And at that point, you might as well just cut your losses, stop thinking about it. Don't even make the decision right now. Come back to it at a later time because once you start going down that spiral, that's your fear, that's your ego drowning out all of your intuition because our intuition is really soft. It is not very forceful. When you have an intuitive hit, it's just kind of like this peaceful, calming knowing. I'll take the example of a relationship again. Maybe you're thinking of breaking up with someone. When you finally make that, when you listen to your intuition, even if the answer is that you should be breaking up with them, there is a sense of calm that comes over you that comes with that decision, even if it's not going to be an easy decision, right? But there's that gentle knowing, that gentle nudge that's like, this is the right decision. When something feels very rushed, when something feels very forceful, that is another indicator that that is your fear. Because again, intuition is soft, intuition is peaceful, intuition is subtle. Fear makes our bodies tense. It feels like we have to get it done right now. We have to finish it right now. We have to go do it right now. It's very much the opposite of what that intuition feels like. So, to be fair, again, this will take practice because if you are not used to listening to your intuition, that can really feel very much like the same thing. So, in order to get more familiar with what your intuition sounds like, my biggest piece of advice, besides listening to when you start to spiral, again, that's just your indicator to take a step back and come to it later. Besides that, my biggest piece of advice to kind of start becoming buddy buddy to come and become pals with your intuition again is to start really small and with decisions that are really, really low stakes. So maybe you want to decide what you're eating for breakfast. Ask yourself, what do I want for breakfast today? Or even if that question is a little bit too hard for you in the beginning to understand, give yourself two options to choose from. Like, do I want scrambled eggs or do I want avocado toast? Ask yourself each of those questions and really take a second to just listen to that first instinct and two to listen to your body. So your first instinct is usually the right one with your intuition because again it's soft and after that first instinct is when those what ifs start to come into play. When you ask that question, do I want scrambled eggs? Like, what does your body feel like? Are your shoulders relaxed? How is your chest feeling? What is your jaw like? What is just your overall mood? And then ask the next one. Do I want avocado toast? How again, go through how your body is feeling. Are my shoulders tense? Does my chest feel tight? Is my jaw tense? All of those different things are our body speaking to us. Because when our bodies get a little bit tense in that moment when we're asking those questions, that is our indicator that that is the wrong path. But when your body relaxes a little bit, this will be very subtle again. That is another indicator that that is your correct path. So really start to tune in to what your body feels like in those different moments. And when it's something really low stakes, like what to eat for breakfast, like that is a decision that is okay to fuck up on, right? Like at the end of the day, you choosing the breakfast that you like don't really love is okay because you'll have breakfast again tomorrow, you know? And then once you get more comfortable with how your body's feeling, once you get more comfortable with your intuition on those little decisions, then you can gradually make your way up to bigger decisions. So maybe from breakfast, it's like with what you're wearing, or then maybe you're graduating to what vacation you go on, which could be like a bigger stakes thing because you're spending a lot of money on it. But the reason that all of this works, and the reason I say to start that small, which to some of you it might sound ridiculous, but it's really not because the biggest change happens in the smallest moments. So the reason it works is because when you're showing up in these little ways, you are showing your subconscious brain that it is safe to show up in this new way, that it is safe to listen to your intuition in this new way, because our subconscious brains are completely obsessed with being safe. And safety to our subconscious brains is more about familiarity than it is about actual like physical or mental safety, right? Because our brains know what to expect when we're in a familiar situation. If you put yourself in an unfamiliar situation, that's when our subconscious brains try to kick into overdrive and make those same old patterns come into play because they're like, no, this is unfamiliar. I don't like this. Put me back to where I'm used to. So when you show up in these little ways, when you ask yourself those little questions over and over and over again, you're showing your subconscious brain in these little tiny non-threatening ways that it is safe to go down this new path, that it is safe to make this change, that it is safe to listen to your body when your intuition is kicking in. And really, even if you do fail to, like, maybe a couple days you end up choosing the wrong breakfast and you're like, damn, like, that's not really what I wanted. And you find out, like, halfway through eating, like, dang, I actually would have preferred the avocado toast. One, that's a learning lesson too, to help you kind of calibrate what your intuition sounds like in your body and in your brain. But two, having little failures like that are low stakes failures is also teaching your subconscious brain and is also teaching your body that failure is okay because again, one of those main reasons that we stop listening to our intuition is that fear of failure, right? So when failure doesn't feel as scary, when we know that we can handle ourselves, that we'll be okay even when we do fail, then that failure, making those decisions that might lead to failure, are a lot easier because you just automatically know that you got you, like you'll be okay at the end of the day. And another really good way to get more used to your intuition is to follow those nudges that don't make sense. So, for me, when I started to notice this pattern, it's something as easy as like when I put something in the fridge and I have this nudge, I'm like, I should move that. And then I ignore it. I'm like, oh no, it's fine. I come back and then that thing spills out of the fridge, gets all over the place. I spend 10, 15 minutes cleaning it up when really I could have just listened to that intuitive nudge and change it earlier when I knew, like, hey, I should move that in the fridge. Again, it's all the processed information in the background that we're not consciously aware of that is kind of helping lead us to that intuitive nudge. Another example of one of those little nudges for me personally in my life, I made all the cupcakes for my friend Tiffany's sister's baby shower one night, and it was winter time. I didn't have enough room in my fridge, so I set them out on the grill while I went. I had to go out and do something that night, but I also needed them to stay cold because of the frosting on top of the cupcakes. So I set them in their boxes. They were all wrapped up. It's not like I was just putting them outside unwrapped up. They were in their boxes. They were all wrapped up, so they were like safe from the elements. But I put them out on the grill and I thought, and as I was leaving for the night, I thought to myself, no, I shouldn't leave those out there. I should bring those inside and find somewhere else to put them. Like I should put them in the basement because the basement at my house is much cooler. It would keep them cool enough for what they needed to be. I'm like, I should do that. And then also nothing can like get in and out of the basement. I ignored it. I was like, you know what? No, everything's going to be fine. It's okay. The cupcakes are fine. And when I get home, I forget what I was doing, but when I get home from whatever I was doing, I had come home. My dog Kiwi had eaten almost all of the cupcakes that I had made that night for Tiffany's sister's baby shower. And so I got home around 10, 11 at night. I had to remake all of these freaking cupcakes, which took forever, especially when I had already done it once and when it was that late at night because we needed them for the morning the next day. Um, if I would have just listened to my intuition, taken the 3 minutes it would have taken to move the cupcakes from outside to downstairs in my basement, I would have saved myself all that frustration. And I also would have saved myself hours, literally hours of work late at night to make sure that these cupcakes got done in time for the baby shower the next day. So it's little moments like that where you can always tell yourself, like, it'll be fine. That I think show up the loudest because it's like if you listen to those little nudges, you don't have to know why it was going to go wrong because you're avoiding why it goes wrong, right? If I had listened to myself when I moved that thing in the fridge, I wouldn't have known why I needed to move it in the fridge. Like you can guess, but in a situation like that, but when I didn't listen to my intuition, I found out exactly why I should have listened to that little intuitive nudge. When I didn't bring those cupcakes downstairs into my basement, I found out exactly why I should have listened to that intuitive nudge. But if I had listened to that intuitive nudge, I probably never would have found out the why of why exactly I should have listened to it because it never would have happened because I listened to that intuitive nudge. And the same goes for you. Like when you listen to those intuitive nudges, it is because you're avoiding the thing that you want to avoid later. You're avoiding that work, that pain, that stress, whatever it is later because you listen to that intuitive nudge. And really, at the end of the day, your intuition is not something that is outside of you. Your intuition is you. It is the deepest part of you that already knows the answer. It's been whispering the truth to you all along through your whole journey. Your intuition has been with you the entire freaking time, baby. So when you're able to quiet the outside noise, when you're able to dim down those different distractions, when you're able to really turn into yourself, when you soften that fear, when you give yourself just a moment to listen to you internally, that's when you will really hear and that's when you'll really tune in to your intuition. So, trusting your intuition really is not about becoming this whole new person. It's more so about coming home and creating a path back to that deepest part of yourself that has always been with you, that you have already always been. The more you honor those little nudges, those little gut feelings, those snap decisions, those unexplainable things that you don't understand why you know it, but for some reason you actually really do know it, the stronger that inner voice becomes because you are slowly building up the stage and giving it a stage to speak at. So if you take one thing away from today's episode, just let it be that you already have the answers within you. You already are the wisdom that you are looking for. So, really, all that's left is to trust yourself and to follow all of the knowledge and all of the wisdom that you've already been given. Um, so, that is it for me today, y'all. But I will see you next week. Thanks so much for tuning in. Love you. Bye. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed the episode. If you liked what you heard, then go ahead and subscribe so you get updates with us every week. You can also follow us on Instagram at KRC Coaching. If you're interested in working one-on-one, then go ahead and visit our website, krccoaching.com, to book your first 30-minute session for free. All right, thanks so much, you guys. Love you. Bye.